presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. As always, I am Dominick Crissetto here with TJ Corman. TJ, you're in the usual studio today. I am not in the usual studio. I don't even know what this. It's a bluish, greenish. I don't know what it looks like to you. It's a very light blue wall behind me here with a door. So yeah, you may hear some rowdy family from time to time. I don't know. You said you've got people over too as well, right?
Yeah, man. It's that time of year. Of year. Everybody's coming together, have some drinks, and be merry. Well, at least be thankful, and then later on be merry.
And be drunk.
And be drunk. There's that. There's always that.
Oh man. Well, yeah, we had a heck of a week. Hopefully everyone's having a good solid time. Like TJ was saying before we got started, a lot of people are probably traveling. This may be an episode where a lot of people watch after the fact, but we still wanted to bring you the great content that TJ helps provide every week, especially going into the last week of the regular season and some of these teams' last games of the year at all.
Yeah.
We definitely didn't want to miss out on this, but yeah, let's just temper expectations. This episode will certainly be a tad bit shorter. Wanted to also mention that we are brought to you by the Dog Sports Media Network and presented by Dano's Seasoning, which we're going to be using a lot of Dano's Seasoning over the next few days. TJ, I'm sure you will as well, but my dad already picked some up and he's planning on using it tomorrow. So promo code down below for that for the listeners. You spell that DAWGOS at danoseasoning.com to get some seasoning and spice up your Thanksgiving, or at this point, probably, something after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Get your turkeys brined tonight and get ready to get up in the morning and get your cooking going on. What's up, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Tony, thanks for saying hi. What's up? Hopefully you're having a good Thanksgiving so far and enjoy some good eats tomorrow. So, TJ, as always, we'll go ahead and jump into the clip aspect of what you provide us with every week.
Go!
And
by the way, that's not my voice saying "set go" during that commercial break. Just in case you guys were wondering, that is not.
It's not loud and intimidating enough.
I did say my share of set goes in high school, though.
There you go.
I did play a little quarterback in high school. And by little, I mean short, because I am short.
Well, we'll hope that this doesn't lag on us like it did before here. And again, we'll run it through in full speed. This is a running back for Georgia State. I believe it's Carroll that takes it the distance. And just tell us what you see here on this play.
Yeah, so surprisingly, Georgia State came out firing on all cylinders, but this play was blocked up really, really well from the gate, from the word go. I mean, you've got linemen that are climbing, getting to linebackers, getting off blocks, some staying on blocks. It was really a well-designed offensive play, but you're going to see a couple key blocks here that I'm going to call out here in just a minute. The first of which is being right there. It looks like I don't know if that's a fullback or if somebody's peeling and getting up to that second level, but that is what springs this run and makes this gap easier for that running back to read. Nice patience through and true and through the hole, and then explosion through, and then he goes at this point basically untouched down the field. So excellent blocking scheme, and like I said, Georgia State. Really, they actually, as an LSU fan, I got a little bit worried. You and I were texting during the game. Defense was not something that we were hanging our hats on in the beginning of this football game. So, shout out to Sean Elliott and those Georgia State Panthers. They certainly hung in there longer than I thought they would. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna call out Tony on this one. He's an LSU fan, so he says all is well, boys. Well, all is well because you ended up coming back and hammering Georgia State in the end. But
right.
This one was close. Up front, we got Montreal back as well, getting ready for TJ's.
I'm choked on my water.
Yeah.
I knew he was coming. I knew he was coming tonight. I knew it. I knew it was going to be something.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Tony says, yes, it was at first for sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was a game. It looked like it was going to be a game, and I was surprised by that because the defense for Georgia State hasn't been great thus far. The offense we knew would bring it, so that didn't really surprise me. But
well, I tell you what, LSU's defense has not been great this year either. So
yeah, that's true. That's a great point. Very good point. This next play is from Louisiana in Troy. We'll see what happens here on this one. Really, you're going to be looking at the defense to make the play on this one.
Yeah, a classic case of miscommunication. I don't know who got it wrong, whether that was the receiver or the quarterback, but there was certainly miscommunication on this play. Looks like the quarterback expected number 3, his receiver on the outside, to continue upfield. But you'll see, too, that DB could have easily gotten called for illegal contact down the field, especially with the ball in the air. It could have very well been pass interference. Obviously, this ball is not catchable in this regard. But it certainly could have been, illegal contact for sure. Because if you at the snap of this ball, once this guy, once he's releasing, right?
Yeah.
Watch here. I mean, and he just jams him the rest of the way up the field. Look at this. Yeah. I mean, it's easily illegal contact. Now the ball is 12 yards overthrown. So, most officials won't call that play, and it also looks like he just kind of stopped running. So I don't know who was wrong, but I do know that DB was sort of playing with fire in that play, on that play.
Yeah, and luckily he had the other DB, believe that's Reddy Stewart there. I'm not sure if Reddy Stewart's a number off the top of my head, but with a play like that, I'm pretty sure it's the guy who had a bunch of interceptions last year, who was one of the better corners in the Sun Belt altogether.
Yeah, well, and 2, if you go back just a little bit from the rear view. Yeah. Look at the quarterback, right? And watch the safety as he's looking at the quarterback's eyes. The quarterback never looks the safety off ever this entire play. So he was reading his eyes. He was reading his eyes the entire way. 8 was reading his eyes the entire way. I mean, he took him right to the ball. Watch this. Watch 8. Watch quarterback's head. Watch 8. And he stared him down the whole way. I mean, that's an easy. You and I could have picked that off, and our knees don't knee the same way they used to knee.
So things are going to bend the right way anymore.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this is just bad all the way around. Bad quarterback play, bad route running. I don't even know that it was a route run. I don't know what's going on there. But terrible football.
Yeah. I'll get to some comments here. I'm operating off one computer also, people. I usually operate off of 3 screens. So this is a big change for me tonight. So it's jumping back and forth. I might miss some stuff for a second. Tony does agree that Carroll is a good running back. And, yeah, phenomenal. Definitely one of the better ones in the Sun Belt. And, no, it hasn't. Again, I'm getting to these a little bit later. So, but, hey, guess who's here, TJ?
Hey, my guy, Artie. What's up, man?
Yep. Hey, you know what? I give him a ton of credit because we're going to get to it in a minute. But his team did not have the best showing, and guess what? He's still here, taking in the show. We really appreciate you showing up, Artie, especially during the holidays too, man. And hopefully you're going to have a good Thanksgiving, and you got friends and family to spend it with in the next couple of days here. So thanks for stopping by. Tony says that was Troy's only 9th interception of the season. Yeah.
I mean,
that was a hell of an interception there on that one.
Yeah, I would say so.
And Montreal says bad right tackle there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a number of bad tackles on the line there for Louisiana on that one. Let's go jump back. Last play here. This one's nothing phenomenal, but it does come from the Coastal Carolina and Army game, as Coastal really seemingly down and out of it, but they did have the ball there with just under a minute left, and they're going to go deep here on this attempt.
Yeah, I mean, just last gasp. And then at this point, I'm sure onside kick to follow. But, 15 needs to kind of relax, right? Like, you're down by two tutties, bro. Like, calm down. Let's focus on getting this onside kick, which you did not do, and go home. Because, yeah, great. First of all, phenomenal catch. Let me give him his props. It was a prayer. Pickney threw it up, It was certainly a prayer. But let's temper our emotions, right? When you're down 2 scores with 58 seconds left to go in the fourth, let's relax.
Are you no, this is Guest here throwing the ball, and he got the start after some kind of
Oh, that's right. That was
undisclosed-
Guest, not okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Vasco, who's running all over everybody the last couple weeks, did not get the start for some reason. That'll wrap it up for our clip segment there. But are you a little surprised that it was Guest who got the start over Vasco at this point?
Yeah,
I mean,
especially given our conversation last week and the way he's been playing. I thought he would certainly get the nod, but apparently, you know, and you never know, right? With some of these things, you know, you have things that happen during the week that people maybe don't know about, and it doesn't make the media. I know there's a lot of times when we played, and Terrell can certainly speak to this, that some people got less playing time because of some bonehead things they did during the week. So not saying that he did or that's what the case was.
right.
But you never know what goes into these types of decisions. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it, in one sense, it made sense because we also, before Vasco ever even played a game, we both thought that Guest was throwing pretty well and thought that he was kind of the future. And then Vasco comes in and plays a kind of a different game, right, as the scrambling option, but was successful at it. So I was kind of surprised that, you know, they had something that seemed to be working. They change it, and they had their struggles against Army. And we know how Army. I mean, technically, the turnover battle, we'll skip over this for when the actual game, but the turnover battle belonged to Coastal.
right.
They won that one 2-1. However, what's not in the stat book is that they had a punt block for a touchdown, which is essentially a turnover in my book. So it's really 2-2, and you play a team like Army who can sit there and control the game clock with running it like they do, and now you've got a quarterback who's a thrower and not a runner. I guess that spelled disaster for Coastal in the end. It was kind of a surprise to see that there.
Yeah. I see Montreal. Yeah, absolutely. Those things should also always be private, man. I mean, whatever situations you guys got going on, leave it in house. Leave it in house. It's not our business. And people like us who we don't get paid to do this, but there are people who do get paid to do this.
Someday soon, TJ. Someday soon.
That is fair. That's not our business yet. So,
yeah, not yet. Tony says, "My poor Southern Miss Golden Eagles host Troy defense." Yeah, that one's gonna be a little rough, I think.
Bless you, my
be a little rough. Oh man! All right, let's see if I can get this thing again. We're operating off of one screen. I think we're gonna get this thing here. Here we go. All right. Nice. Ole Miss. Now,
Ole Miss. Being Ole Miss.
Yeah, a little surprised because this final score looks like it was never a game. It was going to be a blowout. 35-3 is a little deceiving when you see how the first half went, though.
Right, first half, ULM played outstanding defense. And Ole Miss obviously had some missed opportunities for sure. But I think too, a lot of this is sort of taking a team lightly, right? If you're Ole Miss, you're going to win this game. And sometimes it's hard to get the engines running, right? It's time to, you start to take a team lightly, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's 7-3 at halftime, right?
Yep.
And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now I remember that happening back in 2007 against Michigan, and they did take us lightly that first quarter, and then they were never able to get back because we were more talented than a ULM team was. And sometimes that can happen to you.
Right.
Happened again a couple years back with A&M, or I'm sorry, Mississippi State and that. So, these kinds of things can happen. And then they came out, Ole Miss in the third quarter was being Ole Miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, sort of took over the game from there. So second half was more what I expected to happen in the first half, but I get why it didn't.
Yeah. And the big difference to me is this one is Ole Miss defense against ULM's offense. I mean, they had the ball, but they almost went 3 and out. So, they, like you said, phenomenal defense, but their offense wasn't really getting it done for them to continue battling this one. And man, these graphics. Let me see if I can just refresh this thing and get this graphic to come up. Oh, the whole thing went away. Here we go.
Hey, there's a tiger.
There we go.
More of the same, right? Again, like we talked about, though, a little bit earlier, Georgia State, the first couple drives, really, I think the first 3 drives, I think the third drive, I think they either got a stop on third down or fourth down or something like that. But they were driving on that third drive, but came out and really. But Georgia State has a high-powered offense. Granger's good. I mean, they're really a good football team offensively.
Yes.
But also, it's LSU, and when you're going against who I think is the best football player in the country, in Jaden Daniels, it's hard to be able to stop that. So more of what we thought this would be.
Yeah, definitely. Early on, I thought, hey, maybe we're going to have a quarterback duel, but I knew, in the heart of hearts that Georgia State's defense wasn't going to be able to hang. Right. Like you said, LSU's defense has struggled, so it wasn't a complete shock that Georgia State could come up and jump out with an early lead, but you had a feeling it wasn't going to last. So unfortunately, it only got worse after those first 2 touchdowns for them.
Yeah, that is a fact.
Yeah. All right. This one, we thought could be a little bit of a sneaky game. Yep. Not quite as sneaky as we thought, maybe, at least. But I also think, yet again, this is a little bit closer of a game than the score kind of indicates at the end. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I mean, you got 16-7 going into halftime, and then I think really at that point, I mean, Southern Miss scores 13. Sort of, I guess I know part of football is garbage time,
right?
But
they cut it to 10 at that point, right? 23 to 13, and I'm like, okay, it's not easy, but it's doable,
Sure. So, but again, and to that end, Mississippi State is not very good this year. Let's just call it spade a spade. They're not a very good football team. So, we expected, like we said, this could have been a sneaky game, and to your point, it kind of was. It didn't really get out of hand until the fourth quarter. Or I guess maybe till third quarter going in, and then you started to see maybe it was a mountain that couldn't climb, and Southern Miss, they couldn't climb it, and so it's just like, I don't know. I never thought they would win, but I did project that if it was close, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, and I think we both agreed on that, and again, at one point in the fourth quarter, it was 10-point game. So, Tony, this is a great question. It says, who's y'all's pick for offensive and defensive player of the year in the Sun Belt? I didn't give any warning to TJ on this, so, we didn't really talk about this type of thing. But these are the kind of questions we want to get. So maybe be thinking about that in the background, TJ. We'll get to that after we wrap up the scores here. Give you some time.
Because I've got a couple people that I like.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think both of us know people right off the top of our heads, really, that we could go with. But, you also kind of, when you get to those kinds of questions, you also still want to have some stats to back you up. So,
sure.
You just want to look some stuff over. But Tony also says USM can't settle on and develop a quarterback or an offensive line, and they can't call plays well, I'm sorry to say. Yeah, I mean, I think it did improve after, I guess during the App State game when Will Hall had given up the play calling duties. I felt like they looked a lot better offensively than they had in recent weeks. But, results may vary, right? I mean, they've won some games and they've lost some games. So I didn't really expect them to win this one. I'm not going to put a big mark on them for this game specifically. But, it seems like they may need to maybe find somebody in the offseason who they can count on to do that. And I don't know, the Herd maybe struggling under the same thing there. Pennington comes into this one and throws 3 interceptions, and they get shut out by the Jaguars down there in South Alabama. And obviously not much to say on Marshall's side of this. I don't know if you got anything to add, or you just want to talk about how well South Alabama did in this one.
Yeah, I was really, really, really disappointed in Marshall. Especially considering how well they started the year. And I think you and I had high hopes for Marshall, given where they were trending. And these last few weeks, I think 5 weeks in a row, have just been extremely disappointing and more. And I think it speaks more to them than it does. I think you never want to say a team is giving up, right?
Right.
But I think the writing's sort of on the wall for them at this point. And I think they're just going out there just to go out there. And that's when it gets to that point, it's kind of sad. And that's also when people get hurt, right?
Right.
So, I I think this says more about Marshall than it does about South. Now, and that's not taking anything away from South Alabama and what they did, right? What they were able to do. Because they did play a very, very good, sound football game all the way through. It just wasn't, I'm just really disappointed in Marshall, man. I really am. I mean, but again, you got Webb who had, 24 carries for 117 yards, so I don't want to take away from what they did, but I mean, Bradley only threw for 176 yards. So it's not like he was lighting the scoreboard up.
So that was the part where it surprised me when I go back to see, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but I was at another game, obviously, when this one was happening and everything. So I didn't get to see this one, and I didn't waste time going back when it's 28-0. However, that was the thing that shocked me the most, too, was the quarterback didn't really put up stats where you go, well, okay, that's pretty obvious. He threw all over the place. Really didn't.
Right.
And when you have a running back like Webb, you don't have to do that. But again, like you said, it's more of a disappointment from what I expect to see from Marshall. Even if you're going to lose a game, I mean, you put up a fight. And like Montrell says, maybe some of them quit. Maybe he's kind of lost the locker room in a sense. Yeah. I hate to just say that without any insider knowledge, but you have to question that when you got a disappointing game such as this late in the season. And, a lot of that comes from a disappointing ending. I mean, they did beat Georgia Southern the other week at home, but before that had lost 4 straight. So now they've lost 5 out of 6. It's a rough year for the Herd. And I think what they expected coming in, I mean, I think they were one of the favorites in the East before the season started. And now they're going to end up here without a bowl game. So rough go. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's not their year. It really isn't. And it sucked because they really did have a great year, or at least a great start to the year.
They had a great start to a year and a lot of good players that had a lot of promise in that point. Players with a lot of promise. Arkansas State finally put it all together, winning 77-31 over Texas State. I'm sure we're about to hear from Artie on this one, or maybe he just doesn't have anything left to say.
I was going to say we might not be hearing from Artie.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be disappointed in the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you score 31 offensively, like we said before this season, 30 to 40 points in this league, you should be able to win games as long as your defense is getting the job done. So how the hell do you put up 77 points, TJ?
I listen, your guess is as good as mine. 77. Listen, I think it was my junior year. We played Wofford. Maybe it was my senior, junior or senior year. We played Wofford at home on Halloween, and we put up 70. And it was just like one of those nights where everything was clicking. Everybody scored, and it was one of those. So I remember how much fun we had that night. And I mean, we had backup scoring. It was, we basically just ramrodded them. And it kind of got to a point where we were just sort of making a point at the end, just because we knew we could. And there had been a lot of trash talk back and forth because the year prior, remember, they beat us after we beat Michigan. And so there was a lot of chatter back and forth. And
that was the Halloween game, right?
Yeah, that was the Halloween game. And we wanted to sort of make a point. So in that regard, I can kind of see how you get to score 70 because we did it on purpose. I don't know how this happened. Like, I mean, unless there was something said before the game, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, GJ Kenny, the coach down there at Texas State, was having a pretty good year. Not the greatest, but, definitely a turnaround compared to what Texas State has seen here recently over the years. But as Tony's saying, maybe he's rumored over here at this Mississippi State job, which could be interesting, kind of a one and done. We saw that, be successful with Coach Drink over at Missouri and what he's done over there at that program after a one and done G5 stop. So, yeah, maybe it works out for everybody in the end. Hopefully it still works out for Texas State because I think they were finally getting to, kind of an exciting point in their fandom, getting back to that Texas root football that everyone's supposed to fear, so well. So Artie looks like he's moving on to the CFL Grey Cup championship because of what happened in this one. But he's got a good point there. Congratulations to Montreal Alouettes. They had 9 Sun Belt players on their championship team. So
nice.
it just goes to prove that what you're seeing in this conference is talent across the board. Not every team's going to be the greatest, but you've got a lot of great players in this conference. And we saw Cross being one of them with the 3 touchdowns. Was it outburst all in the second quarter there, TJ, or was it in the third? I know he went off there for one point.
Yeah, it was hard to keep track, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and Artie makes a good point. I mean, Texas State hasn't been routinely bowling in their history. So for them to make it, maybe they're resting on their laurels there. It seems like that may be the case. Again, 31 points is nothing to sneeze at. So offensively, not bad. Monty still had a pretty good performance, if I'm not mistaken. Finley didn't really put up his numbers for the season. I'm not talking about this game specifically. For the season overall, as much as I thought he might, coming from where he came from. But yeah, this game was definitely, to me, the shock of the weekend. I think I read that 77 points is the highest point total in a conference Sun Belt game ever, which isn't surprising, I guess, right?
Yeah, right.
So TJ was kicking extra points that night. Oh man.
Yeah.
Getting ripped on, man.
I definitely punted that night.
Yeah.
I did punt the ball once. I'm assuming he's referring to our Halloween game against Wofford. I thought you were
joking. You punted the ball in that game?
No, you may not know. I don't think you noticed, and most people don't know this. I was the emergency punter when
I did not know that.
Yeah, I punted for App State. Like
nice.
It's probably 3 games. I punted. And by emergency, I mean like those short, like when you try to catch a team off guard.
Yeah.
And they got nobody back, and you bring your offense out on 4th down and you shift, and then somebody has to punt the ball. That was me. I did that.
Okay.
A couple times I pinned some teams inside the 10-yard line.
There you go. So to my credit, I might not have been in the right state of mind to know who was doing what, other than we lit up the scoreboard. And I lit up my body with alcohol. So anyway, oh man, Kenny going nowhere after these last 2 games. I mean, I think Texas State's certainly going to do what they can to keep him around.
Right.
I don't have the ins and outs of whether Texas State has the money to just kind of throw at him to keep him around. But yeah, hopefully Tony does agree with us that Sunbelt's got some great players. And Texas State, we'll get to this one. Texas State finished out the season with South Alabama. Not an easy last opponent. Although, kind of like Texas State, South Alabama's had some that are a little surprising and let down this season. Speaking of letdowns, I think a lot of the people across the conference was a little surprised by this one.
Yeah, I was disappointed. This is another game I was disappointed in the Sun Belt performance. Coastal, they I don't know. I didn't watch this game. I don't know if you did or not, but I was not able to kind of see what transpired the entire game. I know what I'm looking at, and I'll just take a look at quickly the stats here. 279, 3 touchdowns is not bad by guess, but I tell you this, obviously one came in garbage time. The other 2 sort of kind of kept it close. But I don't think defensively they were able to stop the run at all. I mean, not even a little bit. 12 carries for 112 yards by Riley. And then, there were some other players who had some impact. I think there were 2 other guys that had over 70 rushing yards. So you factor all that in. You're talking close to 300 rushing yards in a game. You most times, and that with clock control and their scoring, most times you're going to lose. So.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You know this because App State's been that team. Not so much when you were on it, really, but slow ball control team. When they get up, it's hard to beat. Again, specifically Wofford and Georgia Southern back in the day. Those were those types of teams. You cannot afford to go down early because all they want to do at that point is run the clock out. They don't care about scoring more points. You run it now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I appeared on Trevor's podcast, a basketball podcast called The 2 Pointers. And it says completely unrelated. Well, it's not completely unrelated because this is a Sun Belt focused podcast entity. It's just more focused on football. But as far as basketball goes, Southern Miss down at home to SDSU, and JMU is up 20-3 to Fresno State, which JMU's run continues, man. Just impressive school, man. They have team ranked or previously ranked, depending on which poll you're looking at, I guess, for the top 25 in football. They are top 25 in basketball. Their men and women's soccer team both made NCAA soccer tournaments. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're good at a couple other things. Who knows?
Yeah,
But,
listen, they're impressive. They are. JMU is an impressive school, and they deserve to be here, right? They didn't just bring them up here to do them a favor. Like they've proven on every level that they in every sport that they deserve to be here. So kudos and congrats to them.
Yeah, I don't know how they've been so well hidden for. I guess I shouldn't say that. I mean, we knew that they were a good
to people like us, no, they're not hidden. But to the public, to the general, you got to look at it this way too. There's a lot of casual football fans, college football fans, right?
Yes.
I'm watching the top 25, or I'm watching the SEC or the ACC, and games like they're not looking at actual college football. Like basically, past the top 20, they don't really know who's out there. That 15 through 25, 30, 40 ranking, they don't know those teams, but those are some really good damn football teams, because not everybody can go undefeated. Not everybody can go 12-1 or 11-2, right? But that doesn't mean you're not a good football team.
Yep. Nope. And quick note before I move on to this next matchup, Tony says Army 0 passing yards, 365 rushing versus Coastal. Yeah.
Yeah. And between three guys, there were 200 and some odd rushing yards between. I think it was 120, 112, 76, and 74. So yeah, a lot of rushing yards between three guys.
Jeez. What do you think about this one? The NCAA is a collection of idiots there, Tony.
Yeah, 100% agree, Tony.
Yeah, I agree too.
A cabinet full of idiots.
Yeah, like we said before, and we'll touch on it here in a second when we get to this matchup, but the JMU App State game was lived up to expectations, but it doesn't mean that JMU shouldn't go bowling to me. So
100%.
That's just part of it, obviously. JMU's number honestly, maybe you're right, Artie. I don't even know, but I wouldn't.
I have no way of knowing. I have the internet right here. I guess I could look it up, but
there you go. Oh man, yeah. So speaking of this one, Artie says Troy still dominating the West. Move over Louisiana. Yeah, I mean, I thought this was kind of a get back season for Louisiana. They kind of turned it on towards the end of last season, looking forward to this season, and I thought, Troy was great, but they're going to lose a lot. Can they stay on top of the conference? The answer is yes, they can.
Yeah, emphatically yes.
Yeah. So, fantastic job. I know Louisiana fans were questioning a late, questionable pass interference. I think it was pass interference they called. It might have been holding. I think it was pass interference.
Pass interference, yeah. Balls in the air, yeah.
Yeah. You saw that one?
Yeah.
What did you think about that? I mean, you've obviously been kind of on the wide receiver aspect of that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes listen, there comes a certain point where what do you expect a DB to do, right? Like they got to play football too, and this is coming from a receiver, albeit slot receiver. I wasn't a wide receiver, but still, like they got to have they have a right to the football just as much as we do. When the ball's in the air, it's anybody's. That said, they can get a little bit handsy, right? And the problem is when you can't feel your defender or the offensive, when you're on defense and you can't feel the guy, you start to panic and you reach and you grab, right? And that's what happened.
There's also some people who thought really the Troy wideout actually kind of grabs him, close where it's like, I've seen this move in soccer too. These guys are getting smarter. Yeah, they're getting smarter and they're getting better at this. The guys in soccer, when someone's trying to defend the ball, they'll actually grab the guy's jersey and bring him into him, and then they'll fall forward like the guy bumped him. Well, it's not true. I think we're seeing this in football now too, where it's like they see the hands and they kind of grab that guy closer, and then they act like he pushed off. So they're looking for the offensive pass interference kind of call. And anyway, maybe that's what happened here. I didn't see the best look at it to be really definitive.
Yeah. But it could have gone either way, to be honest.
Exactly. It is worth saying that maybe if there was a better camera view, we could have more of a clear-cut answer. But either way, from what I did see, I would say I'm fine with the call just because I didn't see enough to say it blatantly was or wasn't something else, right? So, but I thought we just mentioned that because it was a moment that people were questioning within the game. Montreal Montreal piling on the NCAA billionaire idiots. Absolutely. Hopefully not many of them are billionaires. Hopefully it's just the collection.
We hope not. Also, quick moment of truth for me as a wide receiver in college. There was a couple times where I knew I wasn't going to get to the ball, and I threw my body at the defender and got some pass interference calls. So just throwing it out there. Listen, it's set up for us to win. So I may as well used it. There's a couple games again. One that happened at home versus Citadel. It was well overthrown. And I think Almighty was just throwing it away because I wasn't open and nobody was open. And it was over my head, but I was in the middle of the field. I wasn't on the sideline. And I jumped, like the guy was trailing me. I jumped into him and then fell. And just threw did a little James Harden, threw my hands up, flop kind of deal.
It worked.
It worked. 15 free yards. We'll take it.
There you go. Not bad. Smart. Hey, it's, again, some of that stuff.
If you know they're going to call it, you might as well use it.
Yep. Louisiana's had some struggles at the quarterback position. But saying he's their third string quarterback is also kind of he wasn't the third string quarterback coming into the season. He kind of has become the third string quarterback because he got injured first and then he got kind of misplaced. But yes, they're on their fourth or fifth rotation of quarterbacks being their number one guy because of injuries. And actually, I think it's just mostly because of injuries. The poor play has been not that bad, really. It's mostly been because of the injury bug that's kind of hit them there, which obviously we know that's a very important position on the field. Montreal is saying they should be able to review those penalties. It's too bad. Honestly, when it comes down to a game-changing or game-winning or game-losing type of play, absolutely. I agree. You should be able to challenge those types of things.
Inside 2 minutes, but I don't want to do this the whole game. I don't want to do that the whole game.
Yes. Okay. I can agree with that because I don't want to. You can't slow the game down any more than this. In fact, I wouldn't mind.
Football game's already 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the NFL type of thing. No, there's really no challenges unless you want to challenge the call.
Right.
Because there's a whole lot of booth-initiated challenges, which, okay, those can still happen. But if a coach disagrees with something that can be reviewed, whether it's pass interference or some other penalty, and there's a clear view of it, and like you said, you throw yourself at the DB, and they're like, oh, no, that guy definitely dove. They can go back and pick that up because on 4th and 10 and they need it, and it was pretty obvious that something didn't happen, anyway. Yeah, I agree. They should be able to kind of do that with those close calls and very questionable plays there. NCAA President Charlie Baker needs to do the running to the Bulls, either slow his ass non-leadership self. Tony's just ripping the NCAA here. He's got a vendetta. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Tony. Tony's saying that he did write an article before the season started on Dwayne Winfield, who I believe, Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, his nickname's Lunchbox or Lunch Pail or something like that, because he just gets in there and goes to work. So you got to love that fact. And I guess we haven't seen him yet on the field, but maybe they'll get down to having to use him soon as far as this one's concerned. Getting the last couple games here. We had a barn burner in this one.
Yeah, we did. Didn't expect Old Dominion to pull it out. I think you and I called this, or not called it, but you and I, we talked about it last week. And I think I picked Georgia Southern, so obviously disappointed in the output. But that last, field goal by Old Dominion, clutch. Absolutely clutch.
Well, in the clutch, at first I didn't know how far it was, right? I had initially read, and then when I went back and watched, I'm like, oh, well. I mean, that's a 22. I think it was 22-yard. It's a chip shot. He was straight down the pipe too.
It should be a chip shot, right? It should be. But we've seen, so especially, in these kinds of games when it's this close and this tight, you've seen it where things did not go well. Now, I will say to Appalachian State's point, we do got a kicker who made a 50-yarder to win a ball. 50, was it 50 or 52? 55.
54.
54.
Yeah.
So not to toot our horns, but we got lucky with our kicker. But we've seen worse things happen. So
yeah, and Artie says ODU with the upset, dude on them after the first few weeks. Yeah,
they They
Good
listen. They
on
made
him
me
is what
eat crow, and I'll be the first to admit that I was dead wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you just think with the struggles that ODU has had on and off offensively, they've been pretty consistent defensively.
Yeah.
Besides the Liberty game, right? That was a little bit of an outlier.
Right.
But really, the people that have beaten them haven't beaten them soundly. And, with Georgia Southern's offense, I really thought they're going to be able to pass the ball on that defense because it's built really more on a run-stopping defense with Jason Henderson there. And Tony's giving him full credit by saying Jason Henderson is a beast. Absolutely. Early clue that he's probably my defensive player of the year. Although
we're going to agree there because I was
okay.
He doesn't miss tackles, man. He just does not miss tackles.
But I will say, had Gerald Green not gotten hurt for James Madison,
yeah,
he may have been my pick because that dude is just an absolute.
My honorable mention is JMU's entire defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe well, let's see. We're on this game now, so we'll just jump to it now. So App State beats James Madison 26-23 in overtime on the last possession there as JMU really took the lead first on that field goal. Talking about the run offense for App State, really, you have what they've thrown at people in the past, which is like all 5 running backs, all with kind of slightly different styles. I really thought that kind of like ODU had kind of worked into the game against JMU, that was going to bode well for App State and really open up some running lanes. Not necessarily gashing for 200-plus yards type of thing, but thought they were going to have more success on the ground. And really, James Madison kept them totally in check. However, Aguilar went through the air. And TJ, if you want to expand on what he and the wide receivers were able to do there, let's hear it.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how impressed I was with Joey. And he absolutely, 318 yards, 3 passing yards, did have the 1 interception, but he played just a solid. Listen, anytime you throw for over 300 yards, you're doing something right. That's first thing. But there's a difference between throwing for 300 yards and then throwing for 300 yards when it matters. And we needed every single one of those yards. Ruin your magical season. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said this 4 or 5 weeks ago. I didn't pick us to beat JMU. Especially the way we had been playing, and I'm glad they proved me wrong. I didn't pick us. Now, obviously, last week going into it, I changed my pick to because I was thinking more with my heart than I was with my head. But I did say based on how well we've played and the fact that our defense has come to play, that we were and it showed up again. Right, defense played outstanding. Now, third and fourth quarter, or I'll say more the fourth quarter. Then I was sort of pissed off a little bit with our defense. We gave up way too many big plays in the fourth quarter. But when we needed to in overtime, App State really came through. You're welcome, Marty Cat. This is what we do. But when we needed to, defense showed up, showed out, and really they put on the show. So I'm proud of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like I think I recognize Randy's name from one of the groups we're in there, Georgia Southern fan. Georgia Southern cut passing way back versus ODU, cost us points, but also limited turnovers. We'll have to see us limited passing versus App State in rival week. Yes, absolutely. We are definitely going to get to that one, Randy. It is interesting that they cut the passing back. From what I've seen live and in person and some on film, obviously, I wouldn't be cutting passing back against ODU. Their secondary doesn't seem like it's their strong suit. So
it is not.
I'm not sure if that was purposeful or some injuries caused some of that thought process or what, but I don't know if ODU's the team I would have done that against. And we got to get Neil in here because Neil did pick us to get Marshall, JMU, and Georgia Southern. And I remember him harking on that JMU pick hard for the last several weeks, really.
I was going to say for the past couple of weeks he's been on it. So
Yeah, so absolutely. And just a note, I did get to travel up to this game. Full credit. I don't know if we've had any interaction from James Madison fans on this, which is shocking with what they've done. You would think they'd be finding any outlet to come talk their trash on, obviously before this week. But anyway, regardless, full credit to a phenomenal game day atmosphere.
I watched it on TV. It was sheesh.
Yeah. I was at both. So I was in Boone last year. I was in Harrisonburg last week. Neither were bad or anything like that. I'm not going to disparage one or the other, but there was a different energy to JMU. I won't lie about that. But one quick note for those of you who have ever thought or want to go to game day, do not take your children to these types of events. If you do, stay on the perimeter, man. I wore this shirt specifically, and you can see it clearly has a big block A on it. So it wasn't hidden who I was there to root for. And when I first walked over, I was completely by myself till my father met me later on, that's where their house is where I'm at now. So yeah, not the nicest of crowds, not the worst either. It wasn't like going to, Georgia Southern or Coastal, but it was probably just below that somewhere. But the older people were all great. Interacted with quite a few of them, really nice people. All the App fans were cordial that I saw interacting as well. Obviously, we now, as App fans, want James Madison to go in there and beat Coastal Carolina, so we have a shot at the Sun Belt Championship.
And I think
and I just wanted to note that I know some people said JMU was kind of quiet when they got into the stadium and everything. I'm going to just say this. I think they put so much into that game day and so much into the Pat McAfee show the day before that it was bound to kind of simmer down at some points. And so I think that was one of those reasons for maybe some tempered, game day noise once they finally got into the building. There was a lot of smoking and drinking going on before and during game day. So I think it was hitting everybody late in the afternoon. So I think that was part of the reason for that. And so that was the last game, I believe, that was the last game of the weekend. And so now, I don't know, before we go to a quick break here, if you want to talk about our pick for defensive player, and we agree with Tony Thomas here, Jason Anderson, 166 tackles, 19 of them for loss.
Yeah, insane.
So absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, like you said, he just doesn't miss the tackles. It's not that he's, the second and third guy in very often. He's usually the first guy, and he's holding on until that guy goes down. So I think, what do we say that, he had a wrestling background? That's probably helping him out, I think.
Yeah, he was a wrestler in high school, and really, I think all from middle school on, and just chose football.
Yeah, well, made a damn good choice because
I would say so.
He is a football player, and he will be playing at the next level. Neil says, I guess he's agreeing with me. Again, I'm not getting to these at the time that they're sent in necessarily. Oh, okay, so Neil was there alone for a little while too, and says it sounds like he experienced much of the same. Artie's saying, okay, Artie's maybe a little surprised by the JMU treatment. Now, again, I don't know what I look like to everybody else. I'm about 37 years old, so I'm in there with the students mucking it up, and I wasn't trying to cause any problems, so I really stayed away from any physical threats. I'm not the biggest of dudes, but I am about 6'2", so it wasn't like I was going to be intimidated too much. But no one threatened to try and throw a punch at me or anything like that. I'm not saying they're out there trying to fight me. It was more of just like the language, really.
Trash talking, yeah.
Yeah, well, I will say this was really one funny thing. Like, this dude walked by me and he was so blitzed. He was like, and I'll try and make it sound as close to what happened as possible. But like, must suck to suck, and I'm thinking that meant it must suck to suck. And then he said, he mumbled something along the lines, we're going to beat you like 20-3. And I'm like, you're only giving yourself 20 points, which actually is pretty funny because he was pretty close with the 23 points. But, before the game, I had heard some guys telling me they were going to beat us by 40 and they were going to put up 50 and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, I know
if you thought they were going to put up 50, you haven't watched them all season.
No, yeah, exactly. And you hadn't watched App State's defense and what they've rounded into form to be, so. Absolutely. And Randy's looks like he's just as upset with Georgia Southern as we thought he might be. He says, why cut back on the passing versus ODU? The one game we should have thrown and we didn't. We have OC problems falling apart down the stretch. Jedi mind tricking ourselves. Well, that means that us and App State are in for a hell of a game this weekend because you know what that means. It's going to have success somewhere else.
Right.
But yeah, Neil says he was talking to some nice guys at JMU, but cussed like a dog by a few. Yeah, the younger guys and girls they came with it. They were going to make you feel threatened to some extent. As far as offensive player of the year, I don't know if you have somebody off the top of your head. Tony is throwing out Marcus Carroll, 1,293 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, number 5 in the FBS. Yeah, he's definitely up there for me. I don't know if he's number 1 for me. I got to be honest, what I've seen out of Jordan McLeod for James Madison.
I was just getting ready to say Jordan McLeod. I mean, he's got, 30 or 3,000 passing yards, 27 TDs, only 8 interceptions.
Yep.
I like it. I like what I see.
And not only that, but that's one of those things you lean on the record too, right? Like not only is he getting it done statistically, but his team is winning those games as well. Where Carroll is on a team where he's getting the statistics, but his team isn't performing up to great expectations. So that's when you couple those things together. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we have the same picks. I mean, I'm thinking Jordan McLeod is mine. I mean, Aguilar's up there for me too. Again, he's
Aguilar.
Yeah, he's kind of that same thing with Carroll, where like statistically great, but you also weigh in how your team's doing as a whole. And I think we both agree it's not Aguilar's fault. I'm not saying that.
Sure, no, of course not.
But when you're looking for like the top dog, it's probably and likely to be paired with statistics and a record. And so for that reason, I'm probably leaning Jordan McLeod. I've been really impressed with him. Like I said, going into this season, knowing they were going to have to replace a transfer quarterback with another transfer quarterback. It's
hard sometimes to get things jump started, and he came in. It was plug and play right away.
Yes, yeah, and just so phenomenal, no drop off at all. In fact, it may have been an improvement over what you saw from last year if you want to go that far. Our JMU fans bandwagon right now. I think it's just like what TJ just said a little bit ago. Honestly, there's a lot of casual football fans, and there's a lot of casual football fans in the middle of Virginia because Virginia Tech and Virginia haven't been good for very long here lately.
Right. So they're
looking for a winner to latch onto. And guess what? They found one in the mountains of Harrisonburg, Virginia. So, I would say a lot of it is bandwagon type stuff because if they return to middle of the pack next year, you're going to see not as full stadium and not as much passion. But I've driven I-81 for years, and there's tons of James Madison stickers compared to the Virginia Tech and Virginia and even the Liberty stickers that I see. So, I mean, they got a fan base that's passionate. And again, like we just touched about as well, it's across the board. It's not just football. So
sure, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to roll through some of these things. Yeah, Texas State's running back Mahdi, absolutely. Also another phenomenal player. Again, kind of sticking to the same narrative with the record not being as high up as you might think you'd want it to be. McLeod, if we win and get that championship game, Joey plays great. It's him. Yeah, I could see all these arguments being made.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Again, yeah, statistically, a lot of these guys are real close, and that's why I'm saying when you come down to close statistics, you lean on the record. And I'm a big App State guy, obviously. With what I'm wearing, where TJ went to school. But yeah, I mean, I got to favor the guy who put the record up too.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we'll take a quick break, allow TJ and I to get us a sip of water, and we will be brought to you by our Danos sponsor. Again, this is the time of year where you put some Danos on some stuff, revitalize those leftovers, and spice up some of that Thanksgiving stuff for tomorrow.
Yum, yum, get you some. Very good. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
All right, like we said, be sure to go out there and get some Danos. The Chipotle and spicy are the ones I highly recommend. Even the original right now with what time of year we're going on with Thanksgiving is very good. Getting into this week's games. First one up on the docket, Troy at Southern Miss Saturday. This is a noon kickoff. This one on ESPNU, so a lot of people can check this one out. As featured here, we've got two great running backs that you should be watching out for. TJ, what are your thoughts going into this one?
As usual, I mean, I think Southern Miss will come out and obviously feature Frank Gore Jr. I don't think it'll be enough as per usual. Again, Southern Miss is not a bad football team. They're just not ready yet. And Troy is obviously well beyond being ready. And with Vidal having 1,200 yards, almost 1,300 rushing yards on the season, I think it'll be more of the same. So I'm going with Southern Miss, or excuse me, with Troy.
Yeah. This is one of those weird ones where, Troy's kind of got it wrapped up, right? I mean, they've got the West locked up. They got the championship appearance taken care of, all but really secured that they'll host as well, honestly. We can touch on that later too. But this one is kind of like, I kind of see this the same as that Mississippi State game for Southern Miss last week, like where it could be kind of close for a lot longer than it should be type of thing. And that's a little bit of Troy looking ahead, a little bit of Troy resting, a little bit of Troy trying a few things or something. Wouldn't shock me if this one's closer score-wise than it indicates with play on the field. But, I think this one's definitely going to be in favor of Troy as well without too much of a concern in the end. But, again, up until that point, maybe a little questionable. Next up, we've got Georgia State traveling on the road to play ODU. This one a Saturday 2 p.m. start. This one on ESPN+. Who gets rolling? I mean, I guess gets rolling. ODU just came off that walk-off victory to kick the field goal, and Georgia State comes off a shellacking in the end, but a good performance at the start of the LSU game. What do you make out of what these teams have done coming into this one, and what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, so I think both teams obviously have gone far beyond what we've expected this year, especially Old Dominion. Again, I've said it a billion times. I'll say it again. I think ODU has been outstanding and punching certainly way above their weight class this year. This game is, and I hate to, obviously you want to pick a side, right? You want to pick a team to win, but I honestly would not be surprised either way. I think it's a coin flip. I think if I had to give somebody the edge, it would be Georgia State because you have to play 11 on 11 when you got a running quarterback or a quarterback that can run. So it's actually 11 on 11 football at that point. So if I had to give an edge, I would say Georgia State, and Georgia State needs the win. And they both need the win, but Georgia State certainly needs the win. And after coming off a shellacking that they did by, LSU, it's one of those things where let's, bounce back, put things in this proper perspective, and let's go play some good football. So I'm leaning towards Georgia State, but I'm not surprised either way.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that they need it more, Georgia State, because I honestly feel the same way. But what's funny about that is I'm double checking myself before I say this. Yes, Old Dominion has to have this victory for a postseason berth for a bowl game. So they technicality wise, need it more than Georgia State. Georgia State's going to be in one regardless. But I do kind of agree with you. Like Old Dominion's coming off this victory over Georgia Southern, and they're probably feeling really good. Whereas Georgia State's coming off of a couple lackluster performances, and they kind of want to right the ship before they get to the bowl.
I was going to say, especially going into a bowl game, you want to come out and be your best self. So I think Georgia State's going to be better. Well, let me rephrase. My hope is that they're better. But yeah, and Artie Cat agrees. I think when you're looking at two teams who are as evenly matched as these two teams are, you got to look for at this point the athletes that stand out. And in this case, it's Granger. And I honestly, it's not close. He's going to be the best athlete on the field for either team. It's just going to be a matter of what proverbial ball bouncing their way.
Yeah. Yeah, and Artie says he didn't mean to say food running game. He meant to say good running game. But I think we figured that out. Trust me, Artie, you may mistype, but we misspeak. So it's all fair down here in Sun Belt Syndicate. So
Absolutely.
The only thing that's a question mark for me, right, is I don't know if either team kind of lights up the scoreboard here, right? So like a tight tested thing. I don't know. Like ODU surprised me when App went to play them with two solid running backs. At least I thought solid running backs in Callaway and Wicks.
Mhm.
If they both have a pretty good game, I mean, they had a pretty good game against JMU where they kind of had that outburst to get over 100 yards for one of the first times against that James Madison defense all season. They can do something like that against let's be honest, a lesser Georgia State defense. Wouldn't surprise me to see Old Dominion take this one. And also wouldn't be the worst thing because then we have another bowl eligible team. So I'm kind of either way on this one.
Right.
I did spend some time with the Monarchists. I think it'd be cool to see them, cover a bowl game. So I'll pick ODU for that reason, just to throw something different out there.
Okay.
But
yeah.
again, I think this is kind of like we've said in the past, like a little bit of a coin flip game, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the
Raging Cajuns.
okay. Now here's something interesting. This game, what is the all-time series? I think I had it up here. Oh, I'm gonna have to pull it up while we discuss this one, but it's way closer than you would think in this matchup overall. Let's see, 2 seconds here. Okay, Raging Cajuns lead the series 31-26.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. And it seems like, from what the Cajuns fans talk about, and also Monroe won the last game. So they won in 2022. But when the Cajuns do win this series, they're typically winning 3, 4, 5 games in a row at a time.
Right.
So we'll see, because in this series, it seems as if Monroe has struggled to put more than one victory together in the last decade plus.
Right.
So also, I think you saw really a pretty good Cajuns team almost take down a Troy team, or at least take them to the brink this past week. I think, you're seeing two different teams. ULM, although we did talk about this, played very well in that first half versus Ole Miss.
Right.
So another one where it's maybe close early and then someone kind of takes it towards the end there. And with this one being on Cajun Field, and one of the last times they'll be playing on the Cajun Field, as we've seen it here in the past before they renovate the hell out of this thing, which it looks good if you've seen the renderings. It's going to be smaller, but it's going to be a lot nicer.
Right.
So I think it's a great move for Louisiana because, let's be honest, they haven't filled that thing up to the brink, but they do have a solid fan base. They just need a proper size stadium and one that's nicer. Boom, you win all the way around. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Cajuns as well in this one, but got some playmakers there on the Warhawks side and wouldn't be totally shocked for a close one early in that game. Next one up, team we just talked about recently, James Madison traveling down to Conway, South Carolina. Any chance the Shots pull the upset here over the Dukes?
I hope not. Right. I mean,
yeah.
I'm picking with my heart again, but also my head, because and here's the other thing too. JMU coming off the loss versus App, the game they feel like they should have won. And most people, most football minds, based on the way App has played and the way JMU has played, I think everybody on the game day show picked JMU, and then I think on the Pat McAfee show, all but one guy picked JMU. So
our hero, Austin Connor.
Yeah. So I think, and that was, I watched that show live, and I was like, holy crap,
phenomenal.
There was some words being said that I cannot repeat on this show.
Yeah.
That said, JMU feels like they should have won and probably are pissed off, right? And I would be too if I were them. So I think they take it out, and I think they, Coastal's running into them at a bad time. And really, Coastal's not an explosive football team on either side of the ball. They don't turn you over, and then offensively, they don't have the weaponry that is really going to outscore you, in a way that JMU can't stop. So smart money says JMU. Obviously, my heart says JMU, but even more than that, my football mind says it really, honestly, I don't want to say it shouldn't be close because these are conference games, and conference games are usually close for the most part. But what is the spread? 8.5 or 8 in favor of James Madison? I would say at least 10.
Yeah. I think we saw a little preview of this last year. So we know that Grayson McCall isn't going to go in this game, and he didn't go last year. And what we saw in that first half was, again, what I've been talking about with some of these other games in the last games of the season type of thing. Close for the first half, and then JMU blew them out of the water in the second half.
Yeah.
I think this one could be similar, and part of the reason for that is because I don't even know who's going to go for quarterback, right? You had Vasco coming in and win some games.
I don't think they know.
That's true. That's very true. That's a great point. If they don't know, then that's maybe a tactic that bodes well for them.
Right.
Because they don't know. They got to plan for two guys who do two drastically different things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. You're losing to Army here doesn't make me think very highly of what you're capable of doing here against a team that is much, much better than an Army team on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think this one is a spread bigger than 10. I don't think Coastal's defense is going to be able to stop this James Madison off. Again, we don't think they're the most explosive, amazing offense, but they are pretty consistent and they are threatening. And like you said, they're probably going to be a little pissed off after what happened last week. So,
and Jordan has thrown for over 3,000 yards this year and 27 touchdowns. So, while they're not explosive, they are hella consistent.
Yes, absolutely. And Surratt. We were talking about it in the stands. Not related to the two kids who played for both Wake Forest and UNC, by the way. They may be like distance relatives. They're not brothers or first cousins, it doesn't seem. So, just so you know, because I've been hearing that name and I'm thinking he's got to be related to those two kids that were playing, kind of locally here too lately. That is not the case, apparently. Neil wants to know if we sent Boston some swag. If we didn't, App State needs to. That's not my call, but that would be one of the first things I would have done on Monday morning.
Right.
Going into a game that starts at 3:30 kick on ESPN Plus, we've got Arkansas State traveling to Marshall. All right, so Arkansas State's just put up 77 points this past week. Marshall put up 0.
Yeah.
What are we about to see on the field this Saturday at the Joan?
I think Arkansas puts up at least 40.
Okay.
At least 40. I don't think Marshall – I think they've given up, man. I really honestly think that the writing's on the wall. Now, here's the thing. One or two things are going to happen. They're 5-6, right?
Right.
One more game gets you bowl eligible. So you get two – there's only two versions of things that can be played out here, obviously, besides the win-loss. It's either Marshall comes out like world beaters, and we see the Marshall we got at the beginning of the year, and it shows us why they can go into a bowl game and win it, or they get down by 10 at halftime and they hang it up.
Yeah,
that's the only way this goes. Either they get the hell beat out of them, or they come out and do what we thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season. But I don't think there's any two ways about it. If they lose, they lose big. If they win, I think they win close. But if they lose big.
I can agree with that. But I'm leaning, I think, the same way you are, which is that they lose big, because I think that Jalen Rayner, before the other week where they scored 77 points, was, I think, still on top. And if he wasn't on top, he was still within the top 5 of like most consistent QBs in the country.
Right.
I don't know if that's based off QBR or completion percentage or what, but he's consistency-wise, he's one of the best in the country to do it. If you just put up 77 points last week, you're going against a defense and a team that might be kind of slowing it down for lack of better description. I think he just keeps it rolling, man. So, again, if it goes the other way, that's fine. Again, we get another team into a bowl game in all possibility. That no one's going to be upset about that except for maybe some Arkansas State fans. But, yeah, I think
because right now we've got 1, 2, for sure bowl games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Georgia State is 6. Troy is 7. And then App State is 8. So we've got 8 teams right now that are bowl eligible, just if the season stopped today. So having 1 or 2 more, I'm not going to be mad about, right? Like if Marshall wins and gets in, that doesn't stop Arkansas State from being bowl eligible. So I'm not mad at them if they win. And then, Louisiana, they obviously need this win against UL Monroe. That gets them in. So that would be 11 teams. And then if ODU wins against Georgia State, that would be 12 teams. And it still doesn't change Georgia State's status of being bowl eligible. So I'm not mad if those things happen, right?
Yeah.
I again, we've gone through the picks and we don't need to go back and rehash it. We said what we said. But if those things happen and we get 13 teams instead of 9, listen, you're not gonna hear any complaints out of your boy.
Nope.
So,
Nope. I think it's, again, this is going toward what we'd said, when we started this thing this year, which was like premier G5 conference. And I think,
9 teams, even if it stopped today, 9 teams are bowl eligible. There's something to be said when you've got 9 teams going to a bowl game from your conference. You can say what you want to say about G5 schools versus P5 schools, but there's a lot of P5 schools who wouldn't last in our conference. And that's a fact.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Artie, I don't know if you saw Artie's comment there. He says, "Go Herd." I think that maybe a little indication of how he felt about last week with how his Bobcats were treated.
I mean, listen, I hope they do win. I want them to be bowl eligible.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. I mean,
because
if
it's
you
not
don't
going to
tell me who
change.
they're playing, then sure, yeah, I just want them to be bowl eligible.
Right. I mean, nothing's going to change. Arkansas State, the only thing that may change is the bowl game that they get and the opponent that they see, whether they're 7-5 versus 6-5, or I'm sorry, 7-5 versus 6, whatever, or 6-6. The opponent doesn't really. One game's not going to change it that much. So if Marshall wins it, it's a win for everybody.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And I mean, Marshall's a brand, so having them be a team from your conference that gets in is a good thing. It's like a Boise State. Like, when they make it, everyone just expects them to go in there and be good and win. And, same can be said for Marshall, even though that may not be true. There's going to be people that are, like you said, casual football fans who just go, "Oh, yeah, Marshall's in the bowl. They're probably going to win."
Same thing with App State. That when we go to a bowl game, we expect it to win that game.
Yep, that's true. Very true. Expected to win. How about this one? South Alabama travels to Texas State. This one, a 7:00 kick on the NFL. This is not the last game of the week. This is the last game of the day on Saturday. I saved us one that we're going to talk a little bit more about after this one. But again, the nightcap for the weekend is this one. And how do you see this one playing out?
Another coin toss, man. I think Texas State they better bounce back, right? Like, they don't have a choice. I don't have a lot of faith in South Alabama. I certainly don't feel about them the way that I felt at the beginning of the season. You and I put them as possibly, besides Troy and maybe Louisiana, possibly winning the West. And that has not come to fruition at all. That said, they are bowl eligible. Both teams are bowl eligible. So really, this is kind of a momentum game. I would say certainly a pick'em game. I think for momentum purposes, I think Texas State needs this win to go in and have some level of confidence going into a bowl game. But I don't think it matters either way. But if I had to pick who wins, I'm betting my money, and I'm not going to bet a whole lot of it, on South Alabama. That said, if Texas State won, by a field goal or a touchdown, I'm not gonna be shocked.
Yeah, and I think the question below from Artie is really the point there, right? Will Texas State's defense show up? That's the question. You're going to need it against Webb and Carter Bradley and oh man, I'm going blank on his name. The guy right there in the picture, Kylan Lacey.
Lacey,
You're going to need it against those three.
I mean, he's got 12. Lacey's got 1,200 receiving yards already and 6 touchdowns. I say already, season's almost over, but still. I mean, 1,200 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. There's nothing to sneeze at.
Right. And that's on a team that didn't even perform all that well in a couple of games, right? And so he's still putting up that kind of offense in games where the rest of the team's been kind of shut out. So, yeah, but I mean, again, on the other side, you've got Mahdi, you've got Finley, who can surprise you at a moment's notice. Hobart over there at the wide receiver position. Still got Hawkins over there who's doing something. He's already cheering, Boca, Boca, Boca. I think he's got his vacation spot figured out.
Yeah,
that's why Artie wants to go there. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, like you said, really at this point, I hope both teams look good, and it comes down to a last-second play, and somebody takes in, a winning record or a win into the bowl series. and both teams move on to a bowl and hopefully win those. But
Yep.
obviously far too early to predict that. As far as the game that we're going to highlight for the week, for a couple obvious reasons, one of the biggest being that you will be there in person, TJ, to see the retirement. And set me straight on this. What exactly are they retiring? Is it his jersey? Is it like him? Like what? How are they phrasing this to make it clear?
Well,
for me?
he's certainly already retired. But no, they
That's true.
they're retiring his jersey, so there will never be another 14 worn in that stadium again, which I think is certainly well deserved. There's a couple other people I could think of, maybe number 28, that can stand to be retired as well. But well deserved. I've talked to Armani a lot this week, last week, a lot leading up to it. Talked to his wife as well. It's going to be epic. There's going to be a lot of former players there. We've got cocktail hour at 5:30 on Friday. I'm getting up there around like lunchtime on Friday, taking my kid to the field house, let him walk on the field a little bit to, just to see what it looked like. Obviously it's very different. He's going to get a very different experience than what I had in terms of what the field looks like and where it is now, but well-deserved for Armani Edwards. I couldn't be happier for him. And really personally happy that he thought enough to invite me, right? I mean, these are all people he handpicked and invited to come. So the fact that, he thought that much of me, and the email text read that, you were very instrumental in my success and those kinds. And I'm sure obviously it's a crafted response, right? Everybody he invited to, somewhere along those lines, it had that verbiage in it, right? That said, though, it says a lot about what he thought of me and what he thought of the people that are going to be there, and what they meant to him and us as a whole. So proud to be representing for him. Certainly excited about it, and gotta get this win, man. Gotta get this win.
Yeah.
Was there
I was actually kind of wondering about that. I think it was my dad who was asking me about like how did TJ get his tickets? And I was wondering. I was like, I don't know if the school kind of handles that, or I don't know how that went. I just honestly didn't ask him. So that was actually really cool that you just kind of let everybody know how some of you guys are going to be up there on the mountain. And that's a pretty awesome thing. Like you said, to be one of the guys that he's reaching out to and saying, I want you up there. That's pretty damn cool. So where did they hook you up? You sitting in fancy seats, TJ? You got field access? How's that part?
We got some pretty good seats, pretty good pretty good digs. In terms of I may or may not have made a couple connections about possibly getting on the field. So we'll see how this works out. It will be on ESPNU. So I will say this: if you're watching, tune in for my bald head on the sideline. Somehow I always find a way to kind of make my way down there. So that's the hope that comes out of this. But again, even if not, really for me, number one, obviously well-deserved for Armani, but number two is my son. And as a father of somebody who at this stage of his life loves football the way that he does. I mean, just the other day we were talking about, and I don't know if you read my Facebook status, he was talking about wanting to no, I won't be still. He said,
I knew you were going to get a kick out of that one. That's a good one, Artie.
Not going to be stealing any signals. I don't have a big enough mustache and glasses yet. But he was talking about how he can't wait until next football season, and when is it going to be football again? And I want to score some more touchdowns, and so he's excited about it. And so I think really this is going to enhance his excitement about the game even more. So obviously, as somebody who played football, I love that my son loves what I love. But even more than that, I love that he loves it for himself. So
absolutely.
While this is an important weekend for him, it'll be more important for me personally because of how my son's going to react to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Does he? I mean, I'm sure he does, but like, to what extent does he know Armonte and like what he did and who he was to you and App State in general and all that?
Yeah, I mean, he knows he was my quarterback. He knows it's hard to paint a picture of how good he was to somebody who's 6 years old.
True.
Right? He knows his favorite quarterback is Joe Burrow. So, it's hard to compare Armani Edwards to Joe Burrow because, I don't see him on TV like I see Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things. But at the same time, he knows really how important that A is for me and what it meant long term for my life. College scholarship, where I am now. I don't know that I would have, had it not been for football. And obviously there was plenty of other places. I actually had a full scholarship to Georgia Southern to go play quarterback, believe it or not. Yeah, they wanted me to come be their option quarterback.
Sorry to interrupt there, but
Yeah.
that's really interesting because I didn't know that previously, but also apparently so did Armonte, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or did they not want him to play quarterback? They wanted him to play a different position or something like
I
that?
don't know. I know he had a full scholarship to Georgia Southern. I don't know what position it was.
Okay.
But I know, and it was funny because I'd had surgery my senior year, and Georgia Southern's recruiter for Georgia Southern came in. I was like, my right arm's in a sling, and I had torn labrum, so I had literally a week past or post operation, and he's like, yeah, we'd love to have you at court. I'm like, you realize I can't throw right now, right? Like, there's nothing. Oh, we don't need you to throw. We throw maybe 5 times a game, and I'm like, okay. So like high school again. So it was I for about a day and a half I entertained it because of the notoriety, what it would look like. And then I thought, why would I go 8, 9, 10 hours away from North Carolina where nobody's going to see me and know who? Because at that time, nobody knew who Georgia Southern, App State, all these guys were.
Right.
So I could do that when I could just go right down the street to go play for App State. And Elon had also offered me as well. So, anyway, I'm doing a lot of talking. But
I don't see you as the small private school type there.
No. Elon, I went on my visit to Elon, and I was so bored, I fell asleep at the bar we were at. Yeah, it was not. I did not have a good time at Elon. No offense to Elon. I know you guys are better now, and you got progressively better as the years went by, even when I was in college and we were playing against you guys. But, yeah, it was – anytime the recruiting coach was like, hey, well, we can play you at running back and play you receiver. We can even play you at DB. Wherever. And I'm like, so you don't actually have a plan for me? You just want me to come there? I'm good.
Yeah. It sounds like that they had success doing that, though, right? They just bring in athletes and they just find where they're going to play. Yeah. So Randy says, I just took it off as I was about to read it. Randy says Georgia Southern has won 3 of the last 5 versus App. I'm not reading what he actually wrote with the Y at the end. I'm calling for Georgia Southern to pass over 60 times and win in the final seconds. Go Eagles. Gotta. Disagree, but I will say this. I will say this, TJ. This is one of those games where there is extracurricular. It has been some time since you and Armani and the rest of those guys were on that field.
Sure.
I don't know how much, and not as a disrespectful thing at all, but I mean, like, how much do they put into it? There's a ceremony. Like, it's not really connected to them and the team, like, at this very moment. You know what I mean? Obviously, in a history sense, it is, but
Sure.
like, it's not like their routine. I don't think is gonna. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know the background of some of how these things work. Like, are you and Armani and the guys going to be like walking around with the team before, in the locker room a little bit, or talking to them, or like, does that stuff change or what? So I don't have the inner workings of how that type of interaction happens, but if it does, I could see it playing into Georgia Southern's advantage to somewhat of a positive for them, because there is a distraction or a change in the typical routine.
Yeah, no, we won't. So we won't interact with the team really in any way.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit before the game, because they do the mountain air walk and that kind of thing. But apart from that, we won't be talking to the team or no. And it doesn't. At the end of the day, none of these guys were here when this happened, so this doesn't matter to them regardless. Georgia Southern's going to want to play spoiler because they want to ruin a good day and a ceremony day for App State. But at the end of the day, I mean, this matters to neither one of those teams. It matters to guys like myself, guys like Armani, K. Rich, Devin, who'll be there, all those guys who are a part of it, who lived that, during that time. That's who it's going to matter to. So
True.
Nothing changes in the preparation and in the day-to-day for this. It's just 2 old school rivalries and bad blood people or bad blood teams who want to get even. So,
yeah, absolutely. Neil says that his OC told him to go to App to QB, similar system. Makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
although it's kind of funny because similar system. I mean, App had just started that system right before he got there. What is it? 1 year
Right.
in? You know.
Yeah. Yeah. We were my freshman year, so we were running I formation, pro style I, but the year before I got there. And then
Gotcha.
went up to, they were invited up to West Virginia. And that was back when I want to say Geno Smith was there, maybe.
Okay.
No. Who was it? I can't remember who it was.
Pat White.
Maybe, yeah, Pat White. And that was when they were running that 4 wide, sort of, I guess you can call it option style, but certainly spread offense.
Yeah.
Isn't GATA, isn't that get after that ass?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
I mean, I agree. It's kind of a like it flows for a slogan that you can, shorten like that. I'll agree. It is kind of a cool slogan. I mean,
It is. Yeah.
So I'm
it's
not
also
going to.
cool to get beat too, but whatever.
Yeah, Randy's giving us some props there too. Well, not us, but the team as Joey's been real good. Yeah, absolutely, he has been real good. And Troy, one of our college football dogs, says, "Shut my mouth, y'all live." Yeah, we've been live, Troy.
Yeah,
But,
man, join the party.
We're probably we're almost wrapping up here. But before we do wrap up, TJ, I'm putting you completely on the spot, so I realize if you don't have anything prepped and ready. But was there any like story that's kind of crazy or funny to think back on that involved Armani and you specifically, or just in general that you know about that you'd like to share with the audience before we leave them for the night?
I don't know that there was anything. I mean, so obviously there's a lot, right? I mean, there's some things obviously I can't share with you guys because there's some. We had some moments. I will say he never shied away from trusting me. One of the things I did love about him is that he did trust me, especially over the middle, and on those big downs, third down, second down, third down, gotta have it type plays. He trusted me a lot, and that speaks to really what he thought about all of our receivers. I mean, if somebody was open, he was going to throw him the ball. He didn't have a favorite, and I think that says a lot about him. And he was just so dang tough, man. I mean, he's a tough guy. For it to be 185 pounds, maybe soaking wet with bricks in his pocket.
Right. Yeah.
He was tough as nails, bro. And so, if anything, like I said, and he rarely ever got injured, which is insane to think about.
True.
I don't know that I ever remember him. I mean, I'll say this, and obviously it's hard to compare 1 year what Richie Williams did versus the 4 years that Armani did it. Right. It's too very, he didn't, but it was the same type of talent. It was the same set. And you weren't obviously there when Richie was there, or were you? Did you see?
No, but I mean, that's when I started really watching App football because they were on TV for the playoff run. Right. And that's when I kind of took notice of them the most. Yeah. So
I bring up Richie to say there was, and I think I've said this on several occasions, the gap between a quarterback who's a senior and leaves versus a freshman who comes in and takes the mantle was so minute that it was insane. There was no drop off from Richie Williams, who took us to a national championship, who, led us into, down into Louisiana and in the Tiger Stadium, where we really played above our weight class in that game. Scoreboard doesn't show it. I think we lost 24-0. But there were some plays that were made that, we really could have scored and gashed them. And to have the season that we had and the way Richie played, and to have that then go away and Armani come in immediately, I think second game of the season he came in and started as a freshman, and there be no drop off is a lot to be said for your program and for the people that the type of people you recruit. For something like that to happen. So it's a kudos to both Richie for setting the standard and then Armani for upholding the standard, right? And then to us as a team who understood what that standard was and kept it going. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a weird world, Armani played a little bit in that NC State game towards the end or after halftime or something, and then
Yeah.
His first career start was against, I believe, JMU, right?
Yeah, the very next week. Yep.
Yeah. And who are we coming off of? So see, look, it's perfect circle, man. Coming off of
Everything comes
JMU.
full circle. Life is life.
Yeah, yeah. So I did have one question
Sure.
before we go. So from the outside, Armonte is a more of a silent, lead by example leader. Was that kind of the case across the board, or was he actually a little bit more vocal behind the scenes where people didn't see that kind of stuff?
So funny thing about Armonte is so you're right, silent killer, led by example. We had a lot of meetings. He never really said that. There was some times when he did speak up and he was pissed off, everybody shut up.
Oh,
because he's a guy that never talks, right? I'm always running my mouth, and when I say something, it is what it is. But when Armonte talks, it's like, okay, all right, this is serious. This is business. I say all that to say, for a guy who never talks, we played a lot of spades, and we'll probably play spades when we get to Boone Friday night and into Saturday night. His demeanor in playing cards is completely different than what you see before and during the game. He is talking trash at every level. I mean, from the first hand that's dealt to the last hand that's dealt, he is talking trash the whole entire time. He's so fun to be around. So his personality is such a different shift for who he is as a football player versus who he is the person.
Gotcha.
Because they are different people. And again, he has a switch that he just turns on, and it's a quiet switch. He turns it on when he's on the field, and you see it, and it's just like, I can't believe he's this way. And then you get him off the field, and it's like, oh, he actually does talk. So
yeah. I can see it, but it'd be fun to see it like you said. Excuse me, in the spade setting, like that would be fun because it's just a free for all and probably just a bunch of fun to be involved in something like that. Not that I'm any good at spades. I probably have to hear the rules again before I play, but
yeah.
I'm sure
and that's the thing.
Yeah.
When we play spades, all of us, if we got to teach you how to play, you're not ready yet. Because the way we play is a lot of trash talk. There's a lot of, if some of it might hurt your feelings if you're not good. And this is back in college. Take a shot, pass the bottle around, bottle comes back to you. We're playing cards. I mean, by the time we get done playing spades, we probably between, I would say maybe 6 or 8 of us, we finished a handle of whatever we were drinking that night. And then we just go out and hang out, and then next day decide what we're cooking on the grill during the daytime.
There you go.
The way we did it, man.
So that's how it got all started for you with the grilling then, huh?
Oh yeah. This cooking thing, I've been doing this since, you can ask anybody watching the show or anybody who played football. I've been doing this cooking thing since well before college. My dad actually catered the football team a bunch of different times while I was at App. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah, this goes way, way back. This didn't just start.
Got you. So it was from your dad probably that really got you in.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nice. All right. And you're getting to see him tomorrow or today or something?
No. So they're doing their thing home, and the reason they did is because he didn't want to get up early tomorrow or Friday and head on back. So
gotcha.
Which is fine. I mean, I got a bunch of my family going over to his house.
Gotcha.
So, and then like I said, we're leaving so early Friday morning that it wouldn't even been worth him coming up. So
yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, I keep kind of forgetting how close, like Thanksgiving is to hey, we got to get up the mountain.
Right. I mean,
we're 3.5 hour drive for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're leaving 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're gonna get up there and mess around a little bit, have some lunch, and walk around and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a score prediction for this one then, real quick? Last thing.
I know we can score with the best of them. I'm going to give us 34. App State 34, Georgia Southern 31.
Ooh, okay. So a little callback to almost the Michigan score there.
Yeah, I think 34-31 is apropos. I think we scored late field goal in the fourth quarter to seal it.
Nice. I'm gonna go Oh, man. This one's always close, right? Like you're just alluding to. I'm going to go by a full touchdown, though, and just say something easy. 28-21.
Okay.
Yeah, 28-21. We'll see. I mean, there's probably going to be some field goals, so that'll probably be wrong, but
yeah,
whatever. I'll take a victory no matter if it comes by 1 point or 17, so whatever.
Right.
This is that rivalry where all you want to do is win. You don't care how ugly it is.
I don't care how it happens or what it looks like. Just win, baby.
Yep. All right, man. Well, TJ, everyone else that participated, followed along, even if you did it in silence, we really appreciate it. We know there's a lot going on. We want all of you to have a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and be sure to tune in to your team's favorite games. And if you're looking for one to tune into, this one right here, Georgia Southern App State, definitely put that one on your calendar. So until next time, we will see y'all later.